Hey everyone, today I got a package with a familiar logo on it. I put all the pictures up on the wall to make it easier to work. And now it's time to deal with the milk chocolate. We filled every container we had with it. We're going to melt it in a steam kettle, so we filled it with water. All set, we can now load the chocolate into the giant steam bath. We'll also be melting some in the warming cabinet. All that's left is to set the temperature to 45 degrees Celsius. To speed up the melting process, we're going to stir the chocolate drops with a spatula from time to time. All done. But if we use this chocolate right now, once it cools down, it'll be too brittle and will melt too quickly at room temperature. Our goal is to get strong, shiny, and more stable chocolate. To do that, we need to temper it. Right now, the chocolate is at 47 degrees, and our task is to cool it down to the right temperature. The easiest way to do this is by using a giant granite slab. We're going to pour 4 containers of chocolate onto it. Using a spatula, we spread the chocolate across the granite to help it cool faster. Then we're going to scrape it back into the center to mix it and cool it more evenly. This whole process takes literally 2 minutes. So we're going to check the temperature. The chocolate has reached the ideal 30 degrees. Now, using large spatulas, we transfer the chocolate back into the bowl. But we're not done yet. We need to slightly reheat it. So we're going to take a portion of hot chocolate from the warming cabinet and add it to the cooled batch. Now all that's left is to mix it together, and thanks to this controlled cooling and reheating, we've stabilized the cocoa butter crystals. So let's check the temperature. 32 degrees, perfect. Now this chocolate is ready to work with. We'll be making the statue without the column, just the top more interesting part. So we're going to start with the lowest tier. For the mold, we're using a large plastic flower pot. First, we need to wipe the surface with alcohol to remove any grease so the chocolate will come out easier. The texture at the bottom might make it hard to release the chocolate, so we're going to add a layer of paper and put the whole thing in the freezer. Now we can pour in our tempered chocolate. The goal is to fill the pot all the way to the top. All done. We close the freezer and wait 40 minutes. Now it's time to check. It's hardened on the top, so we can take it out now. Of course, the chocolate only set along the edges and the top. It's still liquid inside, so we're going to use a knife to cut out a hatch. Then we're going to scoop it out with a big spatula. And now we're going to drain all that good chocolate. We'll need it later, and we just tilt the pot and pour it into the bowl. Then we wait for everything to set. Once it's ready, we take out the chocolate from the pot and remove the paper. This part will sit on a base we've already made, so we place the chocolate pot right on top of it. Next is a flatter and wider section, and for that we're going to use a tray as a mold. Same routine here, we're going to line it with paper, put it in the freezer, and fill it all the way up with chocolate. And now we wait again. This time, after 25 minutes, it's ready. We're going to cut around the edge and remove the top. Then we're going to pour the liquid chocolate. And take the solid piece out of the mold. Now we don't need this paper anymore. To make sure the chocolate parts stick together securely, we're going to scratch the surfaces where they connect. Next, we're going to heat it with a heat gun and apply a thick layer of melted chocolate. And then we're going to carefully attach it. The original statue has a lower disc as part of the base, so now we'll need a template. We're going to use a ruler as a compass to draw a clean semicircle. Then we're going to move the pencil further out and draw a larger semicircle. After that, we're going to cut it out with the scalpel and remove the excess. Now, using a garden sprayer, we're going to lightly wet the granite surface. On top of that, we're going to stick an acetate sheet and build a molding frame using aluminum profiles. We're going to secure the inside of the mold with hot chocolate so it doesn't shift under the weight of the chocolate that we're going to pour into it. All done. Now we can pour and spread the liquid chocolate. At the end, we're going to smooth everything out using a pipe. All done. After 5 minutes, we can remove the mold. Currently, the chocolate is slightly soft, which is exactly what we need, so we're going to place the template on top and trace around it with scalpels, cutting into the chocolate. We're going to quickly move over and cut out the second half ring. All done. Now we cover the chocolate with paper. To keep it from warping as it sets, we're going to place 2 larger boards and some barrels on top as a press. After 5 hours, we're going to remove everything, and we're going to trim off the excess from the now fully hardened chocolate. We're going to scratch the surface where we want to attach our giant ring, heat it with a heat gun, and apply some melted chocolate, but just along the half edge, for now. We're going to peel the ring off the acetate sheet and press it into place. Now, to hold it steady, we're going to put a board and a weight on top of it. Now, we heat and apply chocolate to the second half of the edge. We're going to attach the second half ring, place the board on top, and move the weight to the center. Now we need to reinforce the seams using melted chocolate. And smooth it out right away. Now it's time to start the main part of the statue, the human figure. And for that, we're going to need a mannequin, and it has to be taken apart. We've got all the mannequin segments separated, and so now we just need to turn them into molds. And to do that, we're going to run a knife along the seams. The goal is to split each part cleanly down the middle. And after 2 hours, we're done. For the thickest parts, we had to use a saw, which left a lot of rough edges, so we need to even those out with sandpaper. All done. We blow off all the plastic dust and immediately put the mannequin halves into the sink. They need to be thoroughly washed with soap. And then after that, we're going to rinse off all the foam and dry everything carefully with a towel to make sure the molds are completely dry. Now we need to reassemble all the halves. First, we're going to fix the seams in the correct position with strips of tape on all sides. Then we're going to tightly wrap the whole thing with plenty of tape. We need to prep all the body parts in this way. All the molds are ready, and it's time to start filling them with chocolate. We're going to make them hollow, so after 5 minutes, we're going to pour the chocolate from the legs into the torso, leaving just a thin layer on the walls. Once the layer in the legs is hardened, we're going to fill the mold to the top again. Then we're going to pour it out, and this time we're going to leave it to set upside down to get the right chocolate thickness around the waist area. As soon as the layer hardens, we're going to fill the legs up to the knees. This part will be solid to give the sculpture better stability. We do the same with the arms. And the feet. The feet will also be solid. Then we're going to leave everything to set. The next day, the chocolate has fully hardened and we can open all the molds. All right, let's see how it turned out. Wow! Now we're going to open the second half. Perfect! Next, we take out the chocolate arms and the feet. And just like that, we've got almost all the chocolate body parts except for the head, which is a bit trickier. If we just poured chocolate into the head like we did with the rest, it would end up too small and definitely wouldn't fit the torso properly. So instead, we're going to make a gelatin mold of it. And to do that, we apply hot glue around the inside of the neck. Then we're going to glue the whole thing inside this plastic box. Now the mold itself will be made of gelatin, so we're going to mix the gelatin with water, stirring it thoroughly. We need a very high concentration of gelatin. Then we're going to put it on the stove to melt. It's important to keep stirring so it doesn't burn. After 10 minutes, we get a perfectly smooth gelatin mixture. That's what we're going to use to pour over the mannequin head inside the plastic box. The gelatin needs to fully cover the head, and to speed up the setting process, we're going to place it in the freezer. After an hour, we're going to check. It's set, so we're going to take it out. To remove the mold, we're going to use compressed air to separate the gelatin from the plastic walls. Now let's try to get the two apart completely. No luck. All right, we're going to have to cut the plastic walls along the seam and take apart the sides. All done. Now we just need to get rid of the plastic head. We're going to make a cut at the back of the head. Open the gelatin and remove it. Then we're going to secure the mold with rubber bands. Now it's ready to be filled to the brim with chocolate. Once again, we're going to place it in the freezer to help the outer chocolate layer harden faster. And after 10 minutes, we're going to pour out the remaining liquid from the mold. And now at last, let's see what we've got. We're going to remove the rubber bands and take out the chocolate head. It's perfectly detailed, and most importantly, it fits the torso perfectly. For the next step, we're going to need chocolate paste. To make that, we put chocolate drops into a large food processor. We're going to close the lid and start grinding. At first, the drops just break into smaller pieces, but after a minute, they turn into a fine powder, and after another 2 minutes, the chocolate starts clumping into a solid mass, and that's our sign to stop. This is exactly the material that we need right now, chocolate modeling paste, and we're going to use it to reinforce the flat part of our base. All done. We're going to lift the weights and boards. In the end, the two halves formed a perfectly smooth circle. Now we need to make sure the legs can fit into the feet, and for that we're going to use a sculptor's toolkit with special tools, and using them we're going to scrape out excess chocolate from the feet to create cavities. All done. We're also going to trim the ends of the legs slightly. So let's test it. Okay, everything fits perfectly. Now we're going to place everything inside the base and secure the feet in the right position with a strip of chocolate. Now we can remove the legs and fill the empty space with a large amount of chocolate. This kind of joint will be ultra strong and definitely hold the chocolate figure, even if someone interacts with it. For the next piece, we need to measure the height from the lower disc of the base to the top of the feet, 10 centimeters. That's exactly how wide we roll out the acetate sheet, and then we build a tall mold frame. We're going to fill it to the top with liquid chocolate and then smooth it out with a pipe. Five minutes later, we're going to dismantle the frame and place another layer of acetate on top. While the chocolate is still soft, we're going to lift the sheet onto a board, move it to the table with a large pot, and bend the long chocolate strip around the pot. We're going to tape it in place, and then to help it set faster, we're going to aim a fan at it. 1 hour later, it's done. We're going to remove the tape, peel off the acetate, and set the pot aside. We won't need that anymore. Now we're going to test fit the chocolate ring on the base, and then using a scalpel, we're going to mark where it will sit. Then we're going to remove it, scratch the joining area, warm it with a heat gun, and apply the melted chocolate. Finally, we're going to attach the ring exactly where it needs to go. And using the liquid chocolate paste, we're going to reinforce the seam where the ring is attached. All done. Now, before we place the chocolate figure on top, we're going to need to reinforce and improve the shape of our chocolate pot. Now, to do that, we're going to insert plugs into food-grade silicone tubes, just on one side for now. Then we're going to fill them completely with liquid milk chocolate. We're going to give them a shake to eliminate any air pockets and then seal the other end with a second plug. Now, to get the right shape, we're going to lay 3 of these chocolate-filled tubes into a round tray and then place them in the freezer for 10 minutes. Now, once the chocolate is hardened, we're going to take them out. Carefully, we're going to move them to the table And use a scalpel to cut each tube lengthwise. All done. Now we're going to peel the tubing and remove the plugs as well. Perfect. Now we just need to cut the tube in half. And that's it. We're going to take the first tube and apply some melted chocolate, attach the second one, fix it into place with a cooling spray, and then finally glue the third tube between them. We're going to attach the whole piece to the pot where the bulge should be and secure it with the spray. All done. Now we're going to use chocolate paste and build up the bulge in that area until it reaches the right size. Now finally, we can move on to the final step before placing the figure, the top disc of the pedestal. This time we're going to push 2 tables together so that we can pour one solid circle. That way it'll be sturdier. We're going to wet the tables and then stick down lots of sheets of acetate. Then we're going to build the molding frame, and next comes the piping bag filled with chocolate, and we're going to use it to lock the mold in place. Then we're going to pour in a ton of chocolate. We're going to level it with spatulas and then scrape off the excess with a pipe. Once the surface turns matte, we're going to remove the aluminum profiles. And as soon as the chocolate is firm enough to touch without deforming it, we're going to cut a perfect circle using a compass. And just like before, we need to cover it with a layer of paper, wooden boards, and press it down with a weight. So we came back the next day once the chocolate had fully hardened. Now we're going to trim off the excess parts, scratch the surface where the pieces are going to join, heat them with a gun, and apply the melted chocolate. Now, the perfect circle is ready to be glued into place. Next, we're going to need to make sure the legs can fit into the feet. So using the heat gun, we're going to warm up a metal ring and melt the chocolate in the marked areas. All done. The access to the feet is open. We're going to thoroughly scratch the ends of the legs and then fill the feet with chocolate. And finally, we can glue the legs in. We're going to seal the opening with chocolate paste. All done. And now it's time to attach the torso. We're going to reinforce the joint with chocolate paste also. Then we're going to make score marks on both the neck and the head, heat the surfaces, and glue them together with melted chocolate. We reinforce the transition area with modeling chocolate to make the seam less visible. Now for the arms. We had already made the score marks earlier, so now we just need to heat the joints and apply the chocolate. We're going to attach the arms to the body and fix them in place using cooling spray. We also reinforce the arms with chocolate paste. Looking at the original statue, we see that the arms are in completely different positions. They're bent to hold a sphere, so we need to bend our arms at the elbows. That means that we'll need to cut them. Now, to do this cleanly, we're going to heat a knife with the heat gun and use the hot blade to melt through the chocolate exactly where we need to. All done. Now we're going to place a piece of chocolate paste in the joint like an elbow and then set the arm in the correct position. To avoid holding it for too long, we're going to fix it in place with cooling spray. All done. Now the arms are secure. But now we have a problem with the fingers. That part didn't cast well in the mold, so we're gonna have to cut them off too. To make proper chocolate fingers, we're going to create a mold from real hands, but first we need to wash those hands thoroughly and then pour food-grade sodium alginate into a bucket, add water, and mix it well with a hand mixer. Now that the mixture is ready, we're going to coat our hands in cocoa butter so that they'll come out of the mold easily and then dip them into the alginate mixture. After about 5 minutes, we're going to pull them out, and the mold is ready. We just need to pour in the chocolate. And give it time to set. Then we take everything out of the bucket and tear open the mold to remove the chocolate hand casts. All done. We have perfectly detailed hands. But we only need the fingers, so we're going to cut those off. Now we're going to scratch the surface where they attach, heat it, and glue the fingers in place. And then do the same thing with the other hand. Then we're going to use chocolate paste to sculpt and refine the hands. All done. The next step is the dress. First, we need to make a chocolate frame for it, and to do that, we're going to fill a bunch of acetate tubes with chocolate. We're going to push out any air and then place them in the freezer for 10 minutes. Once they've set, we're going to take them out and peel off the acetate. Then we're going to dip the ends of the chocolate rods into melted chocolate and attach them to the figure. Now we need thin chocolate sheets, and for that we're going to pour liquid chocolate onto boards lined with acetate. We're going to spread it into a thin layer and then place it on the granite to help it cool faster. We need 6 of these sheets in total. Then we're going to squeeze some melted chocolate onto the frame and attach the first chocolate sheet. We're going to trim off the excess with a scalpel and then continue like this, covering the entire remaining frame around the sculpture. Then we're going to use the smaller chocolate pieces to fill the gaps. And now comes the most detailed part, sculpting the dress using chocolate paste. All done. I think it looks pretty close, but there's some bad news. While sculpting, we accidentally bumped the pedestal and cracked it. Thankfully, it was a clean break and we were able to carefully glue the piece back on. To prevent this from happening again, we reinforced the base with chocolate supports and secured them in place. All fixed. The pedestal is restored. Now it's time to make the hood. To form the base, we're going to pour chocolate into a bowl. After 5 minutes, it's partially set, so we're going to pour out the liquid part. We're going to take it out, and in the end, we get something like a chocolate cap. We squeeze some melted chocolate onto the statue's head, and then attach the hood base. We're going to fix the base of the hood with cooling spray, and then that's done. Now we can apply chocolate paste on top and start sculpting the shape of the hood. Next, we move on to the face and the hair. In the original statue, the eyes were just 2 indentations, so we're going to do the same here. Now we're going to move on to one of the key parts of the statue, the wings. So we're going to fill a huge mold with chocolate. We're going to spread it evenly across the surface and smooth it out with a pipe. We no longer need the mold, and so we place a wing template on top and cut the soft chocolate shape. Then we cut out the second wing. Now, to get the right shape, we're going to wrap each wing around this large pipe. Once the chocolate sets, we're going to remove the acetate sheet and trim off all the excess chocolate, leaving just the base of the wing. While it's lying in a convenient position, we're going to apply a thin layer of chocolate paste over the surface, spreading it as evenly as possible. All done. While the chocolate paste is still soft and easy to work with, we're going to carve the texture of stone wings into it to match the original as closely as possible. All set. Now we remove the wing from the pipe. I think it looks really close to the original, but the inside still lacks feathers, so we're going to repeat the entire process for the inner side as well. Now, to attach the wings, we're going to need to make 2 identical cuts on the back, of course using a hot knife. We coat the edges with melted chocolate and then insert the wing. Now, to hold the wing in the right position, we're going to use a support, and then we're going to secure it firmly using everything we've got: melted chocolate, cooling spray, and modeling paste. Also, we're going to make sure to reinforce the wing from the inside. The first wing is done, so now we're going to attach the second one. At this point, about 90% of the chocolate statue is finished, and it looks amazing. But I'm not happy with the surface on the very bottom section. So to smooth it out, I'm going to use a new polishing disc and a power drill, and we're going to set it to low speed so the friction slightly melts the chocolate, sealing up the tiny gaps. We also need to recreate the ornamentation on this part, so we're going to simply carve it directly into the chocolate. All done. The original statue has a stone gray color, so for edible paint, we're going to need cocoa butter and white chocolate. We're going to melt them both and then combine them in one container. Then we're going to open up a gray fat-soluble food dye, add it to the bowl, and blend everything together using an immersion blender. Now, just like the chocolate, the paint needs to be tempered, so to do that, we're going to pour it onto plastic wrap, seal it from both sides, and cool it on the granite. Then we're going to cut one edge open and pour it out. The paint is now fully ready to use. So we're going to load it into a spray gun and coat the entire statue with edible gray paint. All done. We also made blue paint and used it to coat the base so that the color matches the original. That's done too. Now we need some candurin. These are edible gold sparkles, and we're going to use these to highlight the ornamental details. Moving on to the blue hemisphere held in the statue's hands, we're going to make it out of isomalt. That's a sugar alcohol that turns into a very stable caramel when melted. We're going to add blue food coloring right away and then place it on the stove, stirring it occasionally as it melts. Ten minutes later, the blue caramel is ready. Now for the mold, we're using a balloon filled with cold water. We're going to tie it tightly and place it into a metal ring mold. All that's left is to carefully pour the caramel over the top of the balloon. After about 10 seconds, we're going to trim the uneven edges at the bottom with scissors. But we're not going to throw away the isomalt that dripped off. We're going to reuse that. Then, using a needle, we're going to gently pop the balloon and let some water drain out and remove the caramel hemisphere. It turned out beautifully. Now we're going to place it right into the statue's hands. Now we need to make the glowing part of the pedestal, and for that we're going to build a mold on silicone mats and pour in the melted blue isomalt. This section needs to be lit from within, so we're going to use an RGB LED strip and a food-grade silicone tube. We're going to thread the LED strips through the tube and then install the lighting in its proper place. Next, we're going to cover the top and bottom edges of the chocolate with foil to protect it from the heat of the caramel. By now, we can dismantle the mold. We're going to stand the caramel sheet upright and then place it exactly where we need it. Now, once it cools, we're going to remove the silicone mats. We also made a second piece of edible glass. And then to fully match the original, we installed pre-painted chocolate triangles. All done. Now, in the original statue, golden elements peek out from the bottom of the pedestal, so we're going to pour more milk chocolate into a mold, and smooth it out with a pipe. Then we're going to place a template on top and trace the shape with a knife. We're going to make a second piece as well. And to get the right curve, we're going to fix both of them onto a pot. We end up with two shaped pieces, which we're going to coat with Kandarin on both sides. Then we're going to place them exactly where they need to go. Now for the final piece, this giant golden ring, and for this we're going to need a new kiddie pool. We're going to wrap a long sheet of soft chocolate around the outer edge of the pool. Then we're going to turn the pool around and wrap a second sheet of chocolate around the other side. Now once that's set, we're going to place the two ring halves around the statue at the correct height. We're going to peel off the acetate and then glue the two halves together. Now to match the original design, we're going to add more chocolate elements around the ring. And then finally, we're going to paint the whole thing with Kandarin. All done. Now to make the ring float in the air like the original, we're going to tie a thick fishing line to it. The other end of the line is going to be fixed to the ceiling. We tested it out, and it works. The ring appears to float in midair. And with that, the giant statue is officially complete. This is the most complex thing we've ever made out of chocolate. It took a full 11 days to create this sculpture, but wait, we still have the lighting. Now the edible glass looks even more beautiful. I'm really happy with the result. While filming this video, we had to buy more chocolate 3 different times because the final weight of the sculpture ended up being 320 kilograms. The chocolatier we worked with on this project actually holds the official national record for the tallest chocolate statue, so just for fun, we're gonna measure ours. It turns out it's 2 centimeters taller than the previous record. Records aren't officially tracked right now, but still, it's pretty cool to know. I'm still in shock that we managed to build something this big that's also entirely edible. So yeah, the biggest chocolate sculpture in our country is now the Anemo Archon statue. I'll see you next time.